Imagine a peaceful suburban street, the kind where nothing ever seems to go wrong. Neatly trimmed lawns, identical houses, and neighbors who smile but rarely speak beyond polite greetings. For years, this neighborhood had been untouched by violence, a perfect picture of quiet, middle-class life. On a cold autumn morning, police received a call that would change everything. A woman had been reported missing by her sister after failing to answer her phone for 3 days straight. This was completely out of character. She was known to be responsible, punctual, and deeply connected to her family. Officers arrived at her home expecting a routine welfare check. Maybe she'd just lost her phone or was under the weather. But what they found instead was the beginning of a chilling and complex investigation. The house looked normal from the outside. No broken windows, no signs of forced entry. Inside, everything appeared tidy, almost too tidy, like it had been staged. Her phone was sitting on the kitchen table. Her purse was hanging neatly on the back of a chair. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no chaos. Yet, she was gone, to the seasoned investigators. This was the most terrifying detail of all. Someone had vanished without a trace from their own home, leaving everything behind. As detectives dug deeper, they began painstakingly retracing her last known movements. They pulled surveillance footage from every business in a 5-mile radius. A camera from a nearby gas station showed her on the night she disappeared. She had recently ended a relationship, but her ex-boyfriend had a solid alibi, and there was no evidence of any threats or abuse in their past. Her co-workers at the local library reported nothing unusual in the days leading up to her disappearance. Every lead seemed to end in a frustrating dead zone. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the hope of finding her alive began to fade. The community organized search parties, put up flyers, but it was all to no avail. Then, investigators noticed something strange. Her neighbor, a man who lived just 2 houses away. He was quiet, polite, almost invisible. He had lived in the neighborhood for over 5 years, yet no one really knew him. He worked night shifts, kept to himself, and always politely declined invitations to neighborhood barbecues or social gatherings. At first, he didn't seem suspicious at all. Just a guy who liked his privacy. But in true crime, as we all know, the smallest, most insignificant details often matter the most. Police discovered that on the night of her disappearance, his car had been captured on a single, grainy traffic camera near her street at an unusual hour around 2 a.m. It sounded harmless enough, but something about his behavior felt off to the detectives. He consistently avoided eye contact. They found fibers matching the sweater she was last seen wearing. They found personal items of hers that had no innocent explanation for being in his garage. The quiet neighbor was no longer just quiet, he was now the prime suspect in a potential homicide. He first denied knowing her well, claiming they'd only ever exchanged waves. Then he admitted they had spoken occasionally about gardening. Finally, after hours of relentless pressure from detectives, he confessed. He claimed it was all an accident, An argument that got out of hand, a moment of lost control. But the evidence told a very different, and much more sinister, story, one of planning, manipulation, and cold, calculated intent. He knew her family lived out of state, so no one would notice she was gone right away. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a crime of opportunity, executed by a predator hiding in plain sight. The victim's body was later recovered from a remote wooded area miles from the neighborhood, exactly where the neighbor told them to look. The discovery brought a tidal wave of grief, rage, and unanswered questions to the community. Could someone live among them, smiling politely at children playing in the street while hiding such a monstrous darkness inside? How many times had they passed him on their evening walks, completely unaware of what he was truly capable of? At trial, the courtroom was shrouded in a heavy silence, as the horrific details of the crime were revealed, piece by piece. Family members wept openly. The jurors, hardened and stoic, often had to look away from the graphic evidence presented. And through it all, the man who had caused so much pain showed little to no emotion. No tears, no remorse. Just an empty, chilling silence. He was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But even with justice technically served, the scars on that community remained. The neighborhood would never feel the same again. Doors were locked more tightly, even during the day. Neighborly smiles became more cautious, more guarded. The unspoken trust that holds a community together was shattered. This case served as a haunting reminder that evil does not always announce itself with a thunderclap. Sometimes, it lives right next door, behind a friendly wave and a well-kept lawn. This was not just a story about a murder, it was a warning, a tragic lesson in awareness, a story of a precious life stolen by someone who masterfully hid behind a mask of normalcy, and a final, chilling reminder that in the world of true crime, the most terrifying monsters often look just like everyone else. Thanks for watching. Remember to stay aware and stay safe.